allegiance. Councilmember Prime.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Larkey.
Here.
Councilmember White.
Here.
Councilmember Powell.
Here.
Councilmember Pryan.
Here.
Councilmember Kraft.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Goff.
Present.
Councilmember Lawson. Here. Councilmember Richardson.
Here.
We have a quorum. Personal appearances. I know this is not on the agenda, but we're going to do a sidestep. Chris Richardson.
I'd like to introduce our foreign exchange student from Italy. Ricardo, if you want to stand up there in the back.
Oh, you gotta introduce yourself.
You got to come up to the mic and give
Yeah,
us
you want to come up and introduce yourself to the mic?
Afternoon, everyone. Maybe night. I don't remember. My name is Ricardo. I'm from Italy. I'm an exchange student. I'm at Belton High School. I'm here for a project, and that's it. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Ordinances. A motion approving the final reading of Bill 2022-68.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Belton, Missouri, amending Chapter 2, Article 3 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Belton, Missouri, to create the Department of Human Resources.
Present.
We have a motion and a
Second.
second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Pryan.
Aye.
Kraft.
Aye.
Powell.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Goff.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Lawson. Aye. Mayor Larkey.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Motion carries. B, a motion approving the final reading of Bill 2022-69.
An ordinance amending sections 1-5, 18-8, 40-1H, and 40-415 of the Unified Development Code to modify existing regulations and adopt new regulations related to the regulation of comprehensive marijuana facilities.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all roll call.
Mayor Larkey.
Yes.
Councilmember Goff.
Aye.
Pryan.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Lawson. Aye. Powell.
Yes.
Kraft.
Aye.
Motion carries. C, motion approving the final reading of Bill 2022-70.
An ordinance amending sections 1-5, 2-117, 2-137, 2-138, 2-139, 30-8G, 30-9, 40-1H, 40-42, and 40-43 of the Unified Development Code to modify existing regulations and adopt new regulations to improve the effectiveness of the code.
Present.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Lawson. Aye. Goff.
Aye.
Powell.
Yes.
Richardson.
Aye.
Pryan.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Kraft.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Mayor Larkey.
Yes. Motion carries. D, a motion approving the final reading of Bill 2022-71.
An ordinance of the City of Belton, Missouri, amending Chapter 6, Article 9, Massage Therapy Establishments and Massage Therapists, and Appendix A, Schedule of Fees and Charges of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Belton, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Richardson.
Aye.
Powell.
Aye.
Pryan.
Aye.
Kraft.
Aye.
Goff.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Lawson. Aye. Clark.
Aye.
Mayor Larkey.
Yes. Motion carries. E, motion approving the final reading of Bill 2022-72.
An ordinance of the City of Belton, Missouri, approving a cooperative agreement between the City of Belton, Missouri, and the Mid-America Regional Council for funding operations of Operation Greenlight Traffic Control System in the amount of $11,200.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mayor Larkey.
Yes.
Councilmember Goff.
Aye.
Pryan.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Powell.
Yes.
Kraft.
Aye.
Motion carries. F, motion approving the final reading of Bill 2022-73.
An ordinance imposing a sales tax at a rate of 3% on all tangible personal property retail sales of adult-use marijuana sold within the city of Belton, Missouri, pursuant to Article 14, Section 2.65 of the Missouri Constitution, subject to the approval by the voters of the city at the general municipal election to be held on April 4th, 2023, designating the form of ballot, and directing the city clerk to provide notice of said election.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Joe, I don't know if you know this, but it seems like on the news here in the last couple of weeks, about every community that I saw is passing this. So I know that was one of the fears if we're the only community doing that, but it looks like everybody's trying to pass this. Is that?
Yes, and I would expect that the majority, the vast majority, not just the majority, but almost all communities in Missouri will be passing this. There'll be some holdouts but I think for the most part, especially in the metro area, you're going to see cities going after this.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Pryan.
Aye.
Kraft.
Aye.
Powell.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Goff.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Mayor Larkey.
Yes.
Richardson.
Aye.
Motion carries. G, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2022-66.
An ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 2, Division 4 of the Code of Ordinances, enacting new guidelines relating to the city's personnel code and adopting the City of Belton personnel policy.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Still got a lot of discussion on this. I'm not ready to go ahead and pass this as it's written. We've talked about this, I know, a couple of years ago also, and we brought it back up, and I think there's some stuff in there. I mean, one of the things, I've had some people reach out to me is not having the directors mandate that they live in our community is one of them. I think one of the ones that it's not in there is emergency management director should be in there also, because that's currently, but right now I think that's the police chief, and he has two roles. So, but if that ever changes, I think that needs to be in there too, because
Councilman, just to let you, the presented bill or the policy that's attached to the bill that is here today, there was one change from our work session, and that is that we have reinstituted that policy that would require police chief, fire chief, and the public works director to have residency unless the council gives special exception.
I guess I didn't see that exception in there.
That's the one thing that's changed from work session, is the residency requirement for those folks, which are the only folks in code besides myself that are required to live. That is back in this policy that we're presenting today.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I just, sometimes from the outside looking in, from employees, especially at the lower levels, I mean, they look at something like this, like we're taking a right away from them, and it's only been exercised, I think, 4 times in 30 years, so it's not something that's being exercised all the time. So I still have some deep thoughts on it, but if the council wants to change it, I'll be all for what they want to do, but that's all I got, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Well, just a clarification still on residency. Why does it require the police officers and not the firemen? Is that
That's how our current code is set up, so that's not changed.
But there's, okay, so I guess digging a little deeper, is there some rationale, or it's just that that's the way it's been and we'll keep it like that? Is it?
Did you say police officers, firefighters, the police chief, and fire chief?
Well,
So the police have to be
A
within
says
15
commissioned
minutes.
police officers within the police department must reside within a 25-minute drive of the police station. It doesn't have a similar statement about about firemen. I really don't care. I mean, I guess maybe it's because they sleep over at the fire station? I don't know, but I was just wondering what the rationale was for not,
I don't know that
Including
there's anybody.
I was
that's-
involved when it first got changed back in 2001, and at that time, everybody had to live within a 25-minute response, and I couldn't live in the state of Kansas. What I was told when it got changed is, back in those days, we had a lot of callbacks. Now we have 2 different fire stations and mutual aid. We don't call back the firefighters that are off, so it doesn't. So that's why originally they had to be within a 25-minute drive time, because if they got called back. But somewhere along the line that got changed, and I don't know if Chief Sapp remembers that or not, but yeah, we got people that live in Nevada, Missouri, or south of that, and we have people live in Concordia, Missouri, I think, and so we have people we can never call back on the fire department anymore.
so we might call back police officers then. I'm just looking at consistency. I'm not looking at to mess with with either department. I'm just,
So he is correct. That was one reason the fire department changed it, but honestly, it was, another reason was recruiting issues, which have now compounded. If you take 2001 and you take today and trying to recruit somebody to come to work for you, it's extremely difficult. And so that's another reason why we wouldn't have it. I'm gonna be honest with you, I won't, the police chief can speak for himself. I'm not sure they even knew that existed.
I'm sure, I was gonna ask if they ever checked to see if someone lived without 25 minutes of Belton, but
and that's my follow-up question. I assume that everybody that lives where they are, they're grandfathered in. We're not talking about actually physically making people move if we pass this. Is that correct?
That's not a change from the current existing code, so.
Okay. But I mean, if any of these department heads now live outside the city, they aren't going to be forced to move unless they take another job or we get another department head.
Again, the department heads that are listed here already existed in code, and they were given an exception by the
Okay.
council, and the council still has that right to grant that exception,
Okay, great.
in depending on the circumstances.
Okay.
So we will not be forcing anybody to move by adopting this policy.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Mayor, I saw in the policy where Councilman Clark asked about the residency, and I saw where it was in there, Mr. Warren, but I didn't see the subject we talked about, directors being released without the approval of the council in there. Is that in there, not in there? That was to be discussed, I know.
Directors being released?
we used to have to
Like
approve the,
Oh, the removal of directors. Yeah, that's again, that was one of the things I mentioned in the work session that we had taken out for this policy was the approval and removal of directors.
Okay. I
Do
thought
we-
it was discussed whether or not we wanted it in there or not, or if we wanted any release of any director to be go through the approval of the council or not.
Right.
I thought I heard there it was, but I didn't see it, so it's not in there like that.
It's not in there, correct.
Go ahead.
I would like to add the emergency management director to be added onto that. I mean, currently today it's the same person, but if someday in the future we ever change that, I mean, I think that should be a mandated. I mean, because if we are having some natural disaster or tornadoes going off, if they live 30 miles away from here, they might not know what's going on in Belton.
I feel like if you guys voted to amend that I obviously wouldn't have any issue with that.
I'll make a motion that we amend that we add the emergency management director to the residency requirement.
I think I would state that as a motion to amend section 2.3 of the personnel policy to add the emergency services director as a,
Section B.
to subsection B as a required resident of the city of Belton.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion to amend?
Who was the second, please? Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we have a motion, or we have the amended motion on the floor for any more discussion. Go ahead.
Can someone recap some of the issues that was discussed last in work session? why it's, I understand about the directors, but I don't understand what other issues are residing that make this difficult for people.
The two biggest issues we talked about at the last meeting was the residency and the right for any city employee not represented by a bargaining unit to have the right to appeal to the city council, and that has been taken out of the code for them to have that right on advice from council and the city manager. Those are the two biggest.
And did I hear you right that the city council, not the city council, city attorney recommended that be taken out?
The city attorney, city manager, HR, and I even believe our attorney for the insurance has recommended that we take that out.
And Councilmember, just for clarification, it's based on section 3.5 of the charter, which states neither the city council nor any of its members shall in any manner dictate the appointment or removal of any city administrative officers or employees whom the city manager or the city manager's subordinates are empowered to appoint. So it's essentially just an interpretation trying to bring the personnel policy closer in line with what is already stated in the voter-approved charter.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, since thinking about this a second and then not hearing any rationale for why police officers are singled out to be within 25 minutes, I would move that we take residency A out, and so everybody, including public works people and firemen and police officers, are not required to reside within 25 minutes of the fire station in this case, or the police station, I mean.
Councilmember Powell, the reason it's in there and exists is because the police officers could and sometimes will be called back.
Oh, so
And
the
the fire
callback-
does not anymore.
Okay.
Firefighters do not generally get called back because of the mutual aid agreements in place and the current policies in place.
Okay.
However, police officers, there is that potential. It's more of a realistic possibility for police officers to get called back
Okay.
for something.
Can they live in Kansas now? Okay.
There's no restriction
Yes,
on
there's
that.
no restriction on living in the state of Kansas.
For some reason, there was a restriction back when we changed that back in '01 that police officers couldn't live across state lines. I don't know.
Just based on what happened at the Missouri legislature in this last session regarding the Kansas City, Missouri police officers, it seems like when a city will typically go away from residency requirements into non-residency requirements, that is a very common thing to include, as in you can live outside the city, but you have to still live in the state.
So do we have an issue now with some of us not knowing that this was in there? Do we have officers that live outside that 30, 25 minute? Are we gonna put ourselves in a pickle if we push this? And
I would have to check to see if we have officers. I know we do have one or two that live in Overland Park. The other thing I would be concerned about is 25 minutes. That also depends on the time of day. If that was rush hour, that cuts out anybody from Northland. And so,
It does say within legal speed limit in normal driving conditions, the 25-minute thing exists. So normal is awful or open to interpretation. So I think that covers us a little bit.
Since this is the first reading, should we look at this in the next 2 weeks?
I can look at that if you'd like. I certainly would not want to make it more restrictive for our police
No,
department
not
at this
really.
current
Just
moment,
make sure we're
given the
within-
fact that we're already down on 10 officers.
All right, go ahead.
I guess my question, I noticed,
So are you gonna rescind your motion that you tried to make?
no one seconded it, but.
I know.
No, yes, because we're going to have further discussion in the next 3
Okay,
weeks.
I just want to stay clear. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, will we be bringing this up in 3 weeks? Since
Yeah,
that's
this is just the
budgetary?
first reading.
The second reading would be February 14th.
February 14th, so
yeah.
roughly a month, so
Yeah.
not the next meeting.
Yeah.
The next non-workshop meeting.
Non-workshop meeting, sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
My question is on 3.1, currently I believe our status is you can't take a vehicle outside the city limits to your house. And it looks like 3.1 would change that, is that correct?
3.1 is not any different than what we currently have in our code. We didn't make any major changes to that. So, and I'd,
I mean, this doesn't say anything about going outside the city, or, I mean, what's our policy today? I thought if a individual gets to take home a car, they gotta live within the city limits? Is that not true?
yeah, I don't know that that's currently the case, given our code.
I mean, Chief Sapp, do you take home a vehicle?
I do. And so, under the former city administrator, both me and the training chief, because he lives in Raymore, drive theirs home. But basically, it was anything not connected to the city of Belton or that we didn't do mutual aid with wasn't going to be allowed to take a take-home car.
I don't know how many people take vehicles home, other than the chiefs.
For the fire department, there's 3 of us total: fire marshal, fire chief, and training chief.
Okay.
There aren't a lot of vehicles going home with people throughout the organization. There's very few.
Allison?
I don't have a question anymore.
Oh, all right, sorry it took so long to get back around to you.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I guess a month ago, whenever we had our last meeting, I was asking our legal counsel about why somebody would be suspended for disloyalty. And I looked it up enough to realize that you don't want people to be disloyal, so let's leave it in.
As long as the city council is okay with interpreting going to Panda Express for lunch as not being disloyal.
Well, it really put the burden on you, because if you being a Kansas City representative, or resident, I mean, and you're in talks with anything that has to do with Kansas City, you got to make sure you're loyal to Belton and not Kansas City.
All right, anybody else on the motion, amended motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. H, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2023-01.
An ordinance of the City of Belton, Missouri, amending Chapter 2, Section 2-219 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Belton, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion, information? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I have motion approving the first reading of Bill 2023-02.
An ordinance approving a vacation of an unimproved dedicated right-of-way located south of property addressed as 1100 Main Street in the City of Belton, Cass County, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, can we move for a second reading on this?
Can, if you guys want to. We
I
have a
want to.
motion for a second reading
Second.
and a second. Any discussion on the motion for a second reading? Hearing none, roll call.
All in favor?
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion approving the second reading of Bill 2023-02.
An ordinance approving a vacation of an unimproved dedicated right-of-way located south of property addressed as 1100 Main Street in the City of Belton, Cass County, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Mayor, the only thing I would, not about the place, the only reason I feel like a second reading is in order for these, or this went through planning and zoning, it's been approved. I mean, we're just doing some legalese, and they're here tonight, so instead of them having to come back February 14th, we can just get it done.
Agree.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Larkey,
Yes.
Councilmember White,
Yep.
Powell,
Yes.
Pryan,
Aye.
Kraft,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Goff,
Aye.
Lawson, Richardson.
Aye.
Motion carries. J, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2023-03.
An ordinance approving the dedication of a utility easement on the south side of property addressed as 1100 Main Street in the city of Belton, Cass County, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Move for a second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a second reading. Any discussion on the motion for a second reading? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion approving the second reading of Bill 2023-03.
An ordinance approving the dedication of a utility easement on the south side of property addressed as 1100 Main Street in the city of Belton, Cass County, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Lawson. Aye. Goff.
Aye.
Powell.
Yes.
Richardson.
Aye.
Pryan.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Kraft.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Mayor Larkey.
Aye. Motion carries. K, a motion approving the first reading of Bill 2023-04.
An ordinance approving a deed of dedication of right-of-way along the frontage of property addressed as 1100 Main Street in the city of Belton, Cass County, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Move for a second on that one, Mayor.
Motion for a second reading
Second.
and a second. Any discussion on the motion for a second reading? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion approving the second reading of Bill 2023-04.
An ordinance approving a deed of dedication of right-of-way along the frontage of property addressed as 1100 Main Street in the city of Belton, Cass County, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Pryan.
Aye.
Kraft.
Aye.
Powell.
Yes.
White.
Aye.
Goff.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Lawson. Aye. Mayor Larkey.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Motion carries. Resolutions. A, motion approving resolution R23-01.
A resolution creating a public arts commission for the purpose of integrating public art into the planning of our public spaces in the city of Belton, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. One motion non-debatable to approve recommendations noted. Any member of the council may ask for an item to be taken from consent agenda for the discussion and separate action.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'd like to take D and F off.
Said B or D?
D is in dog.
D is in dog and F is in Frank. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item D, motion approving resolution R23-03.
A resolution of the City of Belton, Missouri approving a bid for painting services at Fire Station 1 and Fire Station 2 by Impact Painting Midwest for $38,425.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, my only question is, I don't see anything in there about lead paint, and I don't know for sure, but I think Fire Station 1 was probably originally painted when lead paint was still available, and but I don't see any programs or worker exposure assessment or even scraping results in their bid.
Councilman Powell, when was lead paint? Was that like, I mean, it hasn't been back in the 80s, has it?
75, yeah.
Well, that was built in 88.
Oh, okay. So, well, still,
We tore down the old Fleetwood Chevrolet and built a brand-new building there in 88,
okay. In 88, I was
90,
in
somewhere around
New
there.
Jersey.
I believe that it would have been post-lead paint, but it's also been painted at least twice since, and we are planning no paint removal.
Oh, okay. That's all I wanted to verify. Great.
There we go.
I thought lead paint has been out for a long time. That's why I was like,
Yeah.
Anybody else? All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item F, motion recognizing the submittal and acceptance of the annual Cedar Tree SID fiscal year 2024 budget.
Present.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead, Ron.
Okay. Well, this is a general question about all these CIDs. I see that they get tax money, and I see the only thing that goes out is fees, administrative costs, and occasionally reimbursements to a developer, but in most cases, that doesn't even happen. I'm not a financial guru, but apparently what's happened is we've loaned them money, or they borrowed money to make improvements on these properties, and now all they're doing is sticking around and paying off the bonds. Is that the way it works, or?
It depends on the CID. You have various cooperative agreements between the city, the CID, and the developer on these sorts of projects. A typical structure, and what it has been used in Belton before, is that the developer incurs the cost to construct the project improvements that are included and stated in the CID petition that's approved by the city council. And then the CID during its life pays the developer back for that advance for the construction of the project improvements.
Okay, okay. So this is why you go to Menards and you pay more tax than you pay at some other place, depending on what CID a business is in.
Yes, and I would note the one that you specifically pulled, Cedar Tree, is actually not even a sales tax. It's a special assessment against the businesses that are located within the Cedar Tree CID. But yes, that's generally applicable, and Carolyn can help me, but I believe Menards paid its way out of...
Yeah, Menard's not in a CID or anything either.
Menards is specifically not in any special taxing districts like a CID or a TDD.
Oh, I'm gonna go back for a refund then.
9.1%.
I paid over 10, but that was 3 months ago. Maybe something recent's happened. I don't know. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's all I had.
Any other questions?
I guess my other question is, I don't know if this is directed at Carolyn or Casey or who, but didn't we used to go through all these at one time individually?
Not,
So statutorily, the CID is required to submit its budget to the city council, essentially during a certain time frame. What city staff has done to try and make the process a little bit easier is to have all the CID budgets approved at the same meeting.
Well, I think we also do the CID meetings during our budget process over the last couple of years. Because they're in our budget also, so I think maybe that's where we talk about them a little bit.
So they are in your budget because that the city of Belton typically essentially acts as the recipient of the taxes generated by the CIDs. So they sit in a fund specifically designated for those CIDs, and then the city pays that money out of that specific fund and also collects a small administrative fee for that work.
And if I may add, actually, the SIDs are not in the budget, the TIFs are.
The TIFs.
They're
that are in
TIF
the budget.
funds that are in the budget, but the SIDs are not.
Okay.
TIFs are.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, but I believe that these reports are required to be submitted to us, but there's no real approval. We just have to accept it. That's what's on the motion is submittal.
All the SIDs are approved by their boards.
Correct.
And they have to submit it to us. for
Yeah, and then
approval.
it's section 67.1471.2. The governing body, i.e. the city council, is allowed to review and comment.
I mean, we couldn't change this anyhow, right?
Right,
Yeah.
correct.
Exactly.
All right.
Comment.
All in favor?
Any other?
I just said comment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. City Council liaison reports.
I'll give a quick parks update. Spring sport sign up is happening now, so if you've got kids that would like to do some spring sports, there's basketball, t-ball, I think there's soccer coming up this spring too. I'm probably wrong about that, but sign-ups are happening now. There's also the Encanto Princess Party at High Blue this weekend. It's super cute. And there's a family dance coming up next month. I don't have the date for that either, but lots of things to get involved with parks.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, on December 14th, the Transportation Development District, TDD, had their most recent meeting. They approved their 2023 budget. If you don't know what their budget is, I'll just briefly say that their revenues are 1.4 million. Their expenditures expected in 2023 is 1.68 million. And most of those costs are due to getting this project called Mullen Road Expansion off the starting point and borrowing the money to pay for that. Anyway, that budget was approved. One property at the corner of Mullen and Cambridge, at least on December 14th at the last meeting, was not signed up yet to allow for their land to be taken for that project. And even so, the project is expected to start summer 2023. Again, expansion of Mullen from 2 lanes to 4 lanes from the railroad to Cambridge, where there'll be a circle, traffic circle.
Any questions? Go ahead.
I want to say Christmas on Main went really good this year. We had a few issues we started the Penguin Park. We had some wind issues, some rain and snow. But I want to thank Diane Hugshorn for all her work that she did on this and all the other volunteers that we had to help make what we had this year. So, went good.
Any other council? Go ahead.
I got the privilege of going over to the police station twice in the last week, but got to see the promotion of Caitlin Budd, I think is her name. She got to be jail supervisor because of I went to a retirement party of Jimmy Joe Mosby, who I've known for the majority of my life and taught me all I know about umpiring baseball over the years. So I think he had 29 years of service to our community. So publicly, I just wanted to thank Jimmy Joe for his service to our community, and talking to him a little bit, it sounds like he's going to go back part-time because they still need people in the jail. So that's what kind of person Jimmy Joe is for our community, and the Mosby family's been around here for a long time. So just congrats to him.
Anybody else?
I want to thank the city manager, Public Works, and Planning for getting 1100 Main done. It's only been close to 2 years. So, thank you all.
Anybody else?
Yeah, well, it didn't fall on them for 2 years, but it
I guess my question is, I haven't been over there. Is Cambridge open yet?
Oh, why'd you bring that up?
It's close. It's close.
No, it's we're actually scheduled to pour curbs on Thursday and pave it probably Monday and Tuesday next week.
Oh, they are going to pave it now.
We worked a deal with an asphalt company to open up and actually pave it. So it's just, we got to hope the weather just holds together for another about 5-6 days.
Cool. All right. That's good to know.
You jinxed it. Anybody else?
Well, is this for council communications or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of paving, last summer, and I think we have bonds that provide for this for paving a lot of streets, and I really appreciate they really look nice. But are we going to be coming back and painting the crosswalks?
Yes, that's something we still need to do, is get some of the crosswalks repainted that are out there.
Okay.
And we also need to do a lot of just general striping.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else? I don't have much. Only thing I have, hope you all had a great holiday season, and our January the 24th meeting is going to be moved to January 31st, and it is a budget meeting only. So just to remind everybody that. Myself and the city manager also received from the Belton Main Street merchants a picture that we need to hang somewhere. So I'm just letting everybody know what we received to celebrate the 150 final celebration. I kind of think we need to put it in here so more people would see it, maybe out in the hallway somewhere. So we did receive that from them. So that's all I have. City manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, just to piggyback off what you said about the meeting being moved from the 24th to the 31st, that is a budget workshop. Essentially, we'll be going through operations budgeting, and that'll be fairly in-depth. Appreciate everybody's willingness to move that. We had a staff availability issue that had cropped up, unforeseen, that needed to necessitated that move. The next regular meeting will be February 14th. A couple other things. You will notice, council members, at your spot, at your seats, there is the 2022 Economic Development Annual Report. That will be available on our website for anybody who's interested. Tomorrow morning it should go live. And so there will be some social media posts about that. So that has been wrapped up. Thank you, Carolyn and her staff, for getting that done, and for all the work that you guys have taken care of this last year. And one more thing I'd like to remind everybody is that January 19th and it's been moved to the police station. It was set for Memorial Station, but it's at the police station now, is the Rental Inspection Program public meeting for anybody who has any interest in commenting or has any concerns about the potential rental inspection program that's been presented. Just reminding folks that what is presented online doesn't have to be the final version of that. We do want some feedback from the community on how that could and should look before we bring that. First, we'll take it to the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee for their feedback, and then at some point we anticipate they will forward it on to the council for potential council approval. So if you have any, at 6 p.m., January 19th at the police station. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have anything at all before we move on? Okay, items for review and discussion. A, Chapter 353, applicant.
Mayor and City Council, just to briefly inform you that we have received another application for the 353 program. It's for 311, 313, and 315 Main, which is Whistle Stop Antiques here on Main Street. And on the 4th of January, the Old Town Belton Redevelopment Corporation Board did recommend approval to City Council. It is a total project cost of $56,200, and it qualifies for level A2, which is 10 years of property tax abatement, and the application will come before you for first reading at the next regular meeting on the 14th of February.
Any questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call. All in favor? I want to change it up every once in a while.
Right.
I think you would let me do that, but I guess I don't have no power. All in favor?
Aye.
Any